Strange Adventures, issue 5, Tom King and Mitch Gerads with Doc Shader. Issue 5 of this, we're almost halfway through. This is kind of the Alana more focused issue, which we're kind of expecting based on the cover. And although, despite the fact that it's definitely her issue, and it's definitely more of a focus on her, I still feel like it intentionally doesn't actually want to completely give away her motivations or what's going on in her head. It's very much still playing it as
it definitely presents her as even less trustworthy than we were suspecting.
Yeah.
But I think this issue spends enough time with Adam as well that it balances enough that we're kind of just enough that it gives us what he's feeling and why he's there with her.
Yeah, it definitely shows her cutthroat side. Like if this is Game of Thrones, this is the episode where Cersei shows her hand, right? And you're like, oh no, she's just not wearing dresses and talking with people. She's running shit. And that's the vibe I got from here, even in the Shaner section, which we always was like, oh, this is the more positive spin.
The darkest moment, or the darkest thing she says in the issue comes in the Shaner section. It's just when she says she'll kill them all after they win.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm like going like, wait, this is supposed to be like the bright and sunny. Hey, look what we did on Rand. But it also shows how dedicated to the cause of uniting Rand she was, right? Like she's not gonna let the Rock people get in the way.
Yeah, her and Adam and the Shader side of the story, they go to the Rock people to try and form an alliance. When they give their their proposal, they're told to wait for a day, but Adam misunderstands, and turns out a day down there is measured on the rocks and the waves above the rocks. Yeah. So it's actually a month in real time because it's actually tied to the moon cycle rather than anything else. And it's them surviving for the month, killing cave alien rats for food and trying to find water, and it's a struggle to survive.
Turning them into makeup.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
that's pretty metal.
Having a big sex scene.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. They have a big raunchy sex scene.
Which I was used to with Gerads, right, in Mr. Miracle, even though it wasn't like really raunchy.
It was intimate.
Yeah. This though was just like, oh geez, where you're like, oh yeah, these are the stories. They're really trying to sell copies of this book.
It's played up in the book, yeah.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Matt was getting all flustered in public reading his comic. You had to go and somewhere private.
I did. I got a little red in the face. I'm a good boy. You can't be reading this in public.
Oh dear. And a lot of the other stuff on present day on Earth is about kind of the politics of preparing for this Pict invasion that's coming. And there's a hearing where Alana goes, and after Martian Manhunter essentially gives the Superman speech of, we will get through this, hope, all the rest of it, all that jazz. Alana says, no, bullshit. Like, this was the hardest fight we ever faced on Rand. Our technology was way ahead of what yours is now, and we still failed. And it's all, it all feels very cynical and jaded, but ultimately there's a purpose though. It feels like she's scheming. It feels like she's got an intention in her words. And one of my favorite page turns, I was going to say cut, because I think of page turns in a comic as a cut. It's a camera cut. It's when she's in the cave on Rand with Adam, and they're holding hands. She's talking about my love. After this hell, we will do all this together. Blah blah. We will take our paradise. And then you turn the page, and it's the Gerads page of her on the balcony looking down at Washington and the bright light. And she's in the dress and the heels, and it's almost like
sinister.
It's sinister. It's like, instead of being like this paradise of like, they found something happy, it feels like, no, her paradise feels a little bit more malicious than that. Like, she's taking control.
There's almost an implication
conquering.
that Earth is going to be her paradise.
Yes. But from the inside, she's going to take control by, although maybe not. Maybe we're going to find out she does have some sort of good pact with that said, part of me feels like all of this is building to her not actually being as, obviously evil as this is pointing more and more towards her being.
Yeah. She's, the way that I'm reading it is she's a child of war, and then this is all she's known, and she's really good at it. She's gotten good at the politics side. So to us, the uninitiated, it looks like she's making these big power moves, but it actually is going to be for protection, because unless she's also pulling both sides, like that Pict robot showing up in Gotham,
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that's a pretty big deal. You know, but I still don't trust Rand, right? Because the conversation that she and Adam have as he's on the way back to her, you know, as he's all in his jetpack and whatnot, about what Mr. Terrific did there and how he hit Sardath, and Adam's like, "Oh, Sardath, the nicest man I've ever met," and it's almost like he's been brainwashed by their culture and whatnot, and but no, I definitely feel she's an ends justify the means, and that if the picks are the actual big bad and it's not Rand, then she's doing this all for a reason, and she'll be justified soon enough.
Yeah, you mentioned the robot, the drone that appears in Gotham. That, you know, the cameras spot Batman fighting, and that's kind of what gets all this stuff going. That's the idea that the invasion's finally coming. There's actually like a scout that's been sent ahead, and so
it's very convenient, doesn't it?
Yeah, so.
And it also makes me wonder of how much King's tipping his hand of like how the CIA operates. You know, like if this is stuff that's just normal when you're an agent.
It's very easy, or it's hard not to compare this to, say, Bush pointing at some potential weapons of mass destruction. And being like, well, you know, there's stuff there. We need to do something.
Yeah,
it feels hard not to draw those parallels.
It's the justification. Right. There's like something she can point to and say, hey, this is why we have to take these precautions.
Yeah.
And you know, she's making the Justice League look bad. She said, hey, the Justice League say we've got this. You know, we've fought all these enemies from all these various parts of the universe, and like we'll get through it. And she's basically trying to convince everyone that as good as they are and as powerful and as tough as you think they are, you really are just going to sit around and like do nothing and hope that your heroes are going to save you. He's not going to like actually band together and do something about this. Yeah. And also, I mean, just to go back to that love scene, because I happen to be on that page right now, is they've been dehydrated and they have this love scene after they find water. They were able to actually sort of like break some rocks apart and they get some water coming through. And I'm like, yeah, because when you're dehydrated and you've been barely surviving off cave rats, you've got the energy for some sex after you have one drip of water.
Who knows what's in that water, man?
It's just laced with Viagra.
Yeah. Adam passes out because he only has enough blood to operate that thing.
Either you've got a choice. Either you're conscious or your dick is. You can't have both.
Right, exactly. But yeah, no. But again, I wasn't expecting that out of Shaner, right? Because Shaner is the more comic book traditional Silver Age, where that wasn't a thing in the Silver Age, right? Like, you know, if there was a love scene, it was a kiss and a hug. You know, not a full on nastiness in a cave. You know, so. Yeah.
Even the way she's like making a drink as she's talking to Adam over comms as he's flying back from some superhero business.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's waiting with just, you know, she's got the two glasses ready and Elan's, and it feels like all of this scheming.
It feels like the Manchurian Candidate, man.
Oh, like, but yeah, it feels like a political thriller where she's been scheming throughout the day, and you know, him going off and fighting stuff with the Flash. It's just background. It's literally a panel, you know, as she's talking to someone else. It's very much what it is.
Also,
good panel, though.
Also, back in the scene on the balcony where she's talking with someone from the government.
Yeah.
Where she's out there smoking, and she's like, "Oh, is that allowed here?" And the person from the government's like, "Oh, well, I mean, it was traditional for the lawmakers to come out and have a celebratory cigar after passing a hard, you know, resolution."
Yeah, it was intentionally the idea of members from opposite parties that, you know, would kind of, all right, well, job's done now. We might as well just relax and, you know, have a smoke.
And is there symbolism there in her doing it on her own then? If it's supposed to, you know, traditionally both parties, you know, the opposing sides of a debate, whatever it may have been. The fact that she comes out here and does it on her own.
I do like that they draw that there, that she's working. You know, this is not all what it's cracked up to be. You know, like
even just mathematically, the idea of smoke, like covering things up. You know, like you'd be used to obscure things.
She says that too, that it's something about the air that's different here, and that's why
it's too clear. Is kind of what she says, basically.
Yeah,
not in so many words, but the smoke makes it feel
like
more
Rand.
familiar. So then the implication there is the air's cleaner. And
right, which makes me wonder what the hell's happening on Rand, that they're this civilized, right? This far ahead technologically. Is it an atmospheric thing?
It could be just it could be that there's nothing wrong. It could be just their normal atmosphere, right. and this is different. But I think it's notable that comes again after the paradise kind of beat.
Yeah.
And okay, she's kind of making it feel more like home, but this is better than home almost.
Right. Well, it also gives her that femme fatale. It cuts her that figure.
Oh, there's a lot of that, yeah.
Classic,
yeah.
Not so much in the book stuff, but in the present day stuff, she's constantly got femme fatale sort of looks and poses and.
So it just drives that home as well. Even the cover with her on it, it feels like an old detective like book cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, which also makes me think, because no one would typically think of a press conference as a, as a paradise, idyllic type of scenery, like a setting, but somehow Gerard's, through the coloring and the idea of all the camera flashes and whatever we're justifying with this lighting in the panels, for some reason Adam been up there at a press conference talking about this new task force that the president's letting him sort of run. It feels like a dreamlike, like this is the paradise she's building towards, where he's got this powerful position.
I think a lot of it is the soft colors. It's all kind of gold glow.
Yeah.
It's very much traditionally associated with good things, right? That's gold, and it's that glow and it's soft, and it's not all like harsh lighting. It's a really soft yellow. That,
typically. When you have a scene like this in a book or a movie or whatever, this would be a very sterile scene almost. You'd have, it'd be a lot of like greys and whites, and it'd be very, it tends to be more stark and harsh, whereas a very intentional thing here to have it feel a bit more, I guess, happy, a bit more dreamlike.
I think what's an interesting choice is the yellow, because if I have seen this done before where they want it to feel, nicer than kind of the way you just described it, and they'll typically do it with greenery. And have the nature feel of like trees and grass around them a lot, and that'll give it a more natural feeling. So this here, because the gold, it's still unnatural. It's not a natural way of achieving this at all.
But it's also warm.
Yeah.
So it's warm. It's welcoming.
I did like what Connor said there about it being unnatural, though, because the gold does cover up the actual. Because they can actually see some bushes in the in the frame. They are there, but their colors completely masked by the gold.
I think it's really notable as well when we have the I think it's the second panel on that page. It's the close up on the journalist asking the question. He is not completely tinted gold in the same way that everyone around him is, and it's the same on the top panel. Like, Adam and whoever's flanking him, they're kind of they're not obscured by the glow either. They kind of look like they've got a little bit of a tint. Don't get me wrong, because it's just the lighting around them, but they look normal as opposed to the crowd, which are this kind of just entity of this sea of gold, and again it's when you get the focus on the journalist, it focuses in on him and he becomes a bit more real, because
well, and then when you get to the end too, where it kind of bleeds in to the unified Rand.
I wonder,
the unified Rand image kind of has a lot of that, where the colors are kind of blending together, and it's wispy and dreamlike kind of too.
I wonder if the idea, one, that this paradise that she's kind of creating is kind of forced, and therefore it's this fake sheen over the top of things. And also then the idea that all of the people, until they're focused on, are just part of the masses. And, if she is thinking like someone who's been in a war, if she's thinking of people as just part of an army or part of a whole for which you fight a war with, then ultimately they just all blend into a seamless, crowd of people, right?
But they always say war is hell, right? And you talk to service people that have been over there and been in it, and then you talk to certain politicians that make it seem like it's this glorious thing when it couldn't be more from the truth,
which
right?
is interesting from her perspective, though, because she actually was in the thick of it on Ran.
Right.
But like what you're saying here is that she's kind of like, because we're kind of viewing a lot of this from her perspective, even though she's not in this scene. I mean, she's even mentioned by the reporter, one of the questions is about why she's not there or whatever, and they said, oh, she's already working hard. But one of my favorite things in the book as well is earlier when she was talking to Adam on comms and talking about how this ridiculous investigation by Terrific, and she mentions like what we saw from Terrific on Ran. I love this dismissal from her in a couple of scenes. I think there's one here when she's maybe, or no, she's just looking at terrific in this scene when he's on TV.
I think
But-
it's Adam that dismisses it because he mentions,
Yeah.
oh yeah, my understanding is that they're actually really close to completion
Yeah.
with their investigation,
No, but
and it's all
before
going to
that-
be fine.
No, but before that, she also dismisses it as
Yes.
something that's going to be over soon, and she dismisses it in a number of ways. And I think that's important because would he be dismissing it on TV if she hadn't already dismissed it to him?
Right.
Possibly not.
And I think that's a really interesting thing. Because part of me was getting excited because I'm like, I think this is where you're going to fail because you're assuming that Mr. Terrific and Batman in the league are going to just
Well,
let this drop.
Mr. Terrific could read Pick.
Yeah.
Right? They even bring that up.
Do you know what
like,
I'm getting between the three characters here? I'm getting Macbeth vibes.
Sure. And she's Lady Macbeth,
Yeah,
right?
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Connor, I want to bring up too the where she's making the drink. That's definitely an old fashioned, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's
I
Garrett's.
tweeted at Garrett,
Yeah.
like, damn it,
Yeah.
Garrett, now I want one.
Yeah, like the orange in the background, you know.
Yeah. I mean, she does the orange twist, and I'm like, damn it. I mean, could have at least included your recipe, Garrett, while you were at it.
Yeah, right. I saw that and I was like, oh, Connor, he's gonna, he's gonna pick up on that too. So I thought that was funny. But no,
it was really notable because obviously it spent like 3 panels just focusing on the making of it, and it was like not trying to hide it or anything. Which actually in these sorts of sequences in books and comics, they'll just have it's a drink. They won't focus on it. It'll just be in the background. Garrett cares.
If you follow him, It also reminded me of How to Drink, where with the close-ups when they mix the drink there. Like it's a really clear, nice shot. And then like his coloring over that whole section because they're in the desert, wherever they are, it's very Rand-esque, which I think is also
I think
interesting.
A great juxtaposition between her and the outside, because obviously you've got we're cutting back and forth between Adam jetpacking his way back to her, like going over like the desert and wherever he is, and it's this sun golden red hues, warm natural light, and then anytime it cuts back to her, it's a lot harsher green, and not a natural sort of green. It's the artificial lighting of it. I think it's really
it's almost
really
like
nice.
it's almost go away green. Like at Disney, anything they don't want you to look at, they kind of paint this green because you don't want to look at it. So it is like this weird
kind of make you like not notice it.
Yeah, the final scene of the book though, as this press conference is wrapping up, we see Terrific's with Alana, and I suspect that we're maybe going to find out next issue what he's telling her or what he's he's found that he's bringing up. But the last page that we get is basically at this ceremony, this wedding or whatever it is, on Rand, sort of showing this unification, and we've got Alana and Adam with their daughter, with Alina, watching this, and the last line is very ominous. It says, "My little girl, look long. You'll remember this for the rest of your life," with life bolded. And we've been kind of speculating: is she really dead? Was there something else that happened? Blah blah. And this just flows fuel to the fire because I'm like, well, that life could be bolded because she is dead, and this is really bittersweet, and kind of it's going to be fuel for so much of the motivations that we have in present day. Or if there is some weird conspiracy, some sort of secret that's different from the what's been spouted so far, then it's also kind of interesting.
Now that you point that out, it is weird that this is over what looks like an arranged marriage between the Helitat and the Stone people.
Yes.
So I'm almost wondering if Sardath or even Alana used her as a bargaining chip, and even Adam doesn't know.
That's possible. I think it's really interesting on this last page, like just in general the crowd as opposed to the one at the press conference. Look how green it is.
Yeah.
Look how it feels natural. But what's really interesting is she actively points out, it's like something I never dreamed I'd see, something like this. And the dreamed is bolded, and it's a nice contrast between what we were talking about earlier, where it felt dreamlike because of the unnaturalist color, whereas this here feels more natural in the art, but the dialogue is telling us the opposite.
Yeah, and I'm also getting from her dialogue here, she's not as world weary yet, too. Yes, she told the rock people she'll come and destroy them all, right? And that leads up to this. But also, there is that hope there. There's still that optimism for a better Rand, versus where I feel like where we see her in present day, that's someone that's seen some shit. She's very cynical about how everything works. So I wonder if whatever happens with the daughter is what drives her here. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I also, maybe this is a minor thing, but I also, maybe worth pointing out that the daughter's outfit is predominantly yellow, and I don't know if there's maybe an intentional colouring thing there with a lot of the stuff in present day having a yellow sheen over it, kind of like it's all you know, clouded by the backstory that they have with her daughter.
I think, honestly, I would say in this context, yellow is the neutral color, because for the flashback stuff, Adam's color is obviously red, and Alana's is blue, but both of them have yellow as the offset color. So that's kind of the neutral, and that's kind of the middle ground here. And Aaliyah, she's predominantly yellow, but has red at one end and then blue on the bottom. In her outfit, and it feels like, okay, so yellow's this combination, like almost like she hasn't chosen a side yet, so she's predominantly one thing.
I could see that. It still works with the idea that the color yellow, the idea that yellow is kind of something they shared. So the daughter, you know, is represented by yellow, and then you have that be kind of
that's how I took it.
Yeah, this color that's then dominating everything. You know, it's clouding everything in present day. Not that every scene in present day, because there's been scenes that's been other colors, but there's been a lot of yellow in this issue, which is why I'm mentioning it.
Yeah.
So no, there you go. Very strong issue. Not a surprise really at this point.
No.
Matt, what are you giving Strange Adventures issue 5?
I'm giving this one a 9.
Connor?
8.5 from me.
I'm probably going to agree with 8.5. I think it's really strong, and I like it more after we talked about it, which is kind of true for almost every issue of a Tom King 12-issue book. But but it's not. It doesn't stand alone as notably as some of the other ones do. I think so far.
9s are typically reserved for, oh, that was amazing, like when I come out of it. This, 8.5 is really, really good, but it's just not quite at that next level, is it?